Hi guys, welcome to the Darkness channel and don't forget to like and subscribe. It felt like the girls were gone forever. Maybe the day is just going by slow. I sat on the couch watching TV, which was playing some movie that I don't think I've seen before. I eventually drifted off into sleep on a couch. Help me. It must be a nightmare. Maybe it's from the other night. Someone help me. I jerked awake and was covered in sweat. As I was catching my breath, it happened again. Help me. I realized the voice wasn't coming from my dream. It's actually happening now. I was shaking and turned to look at my surroundings. The TV is still on and the sun is still up. It will probably set soon. The girls were still not back. I can tell from the complete silence, and I would have woken up if they were here. I hurried to the basement and opened the door. The voice was so much louder and clear. I was so scared. That's when I saw it. A man was stripped down and laying on the metal table that I saw before. He was tied down and a knife was laying on the concrete ground beneath the table. My eyes got wide and I almost threw up. What the fuck is this? He jerked his head to look in my direction, and his eyes got wide too. Help me, he said, this time much lower, almost like a whisper, but I could definitely hear it. I stood frozen for a couple seconds, but my legs decided to work and I rushed over to the table. I frantically tried to untie the tie knot on the rope holding him down in place. Who did this? When did this happen? I was trying to figure it all out as I was trying to undo the rope. Use the knife, the man said. I examined him. He had sweat covering his head and tears too. I think I did as he said and picked up the rusty knife. Who the hell was doing this? Did they plan on killing him? Torturing him? I couldn't figure it out. I knew it was my gut instinct that made me leave this place the other day. I didn't know exactly what made me want to leave. But now I know. It was the universe trying to get me the fuck away from this hell. But I'm back here and it might be too late. I tried to rip apart the knots, but they were just too tight. Suddenly, something really hard hit the back of my head, and everything went black. It's about time. I heard someone's voice, I think. I might be going crazy right now. Everything was still black, but I could hear mumbles and people moving around. How long has it been this way? I slowly opened my eyes. My vision was blurred, but it started to focus. I was not laying down. I was sat up against a wall. A concrete wall. I was in the basement. The last place I remember being before I was knocked out. My hands were tied with a rope behind my back. My head was pounding and I tried to focus on what is happening in front of me. Oh, look, who's finally awake? Colin laughed. What's happening? I asked. I was so confused and my head really hurt a lot. I don't think I need to answer that. Everything is right in front of you, she said and gestured towards the room. The man was not screaming anymore. His eyes weren't even open. Was he alive? He was still rested on the metal table and Colleen had a knife in her hand. Where were the others? You killed him? How could you? I was so scared and I knew the same thing would happen to me, I think. Oh, hush. I did no such things. She chuckled and brought the knife to the man. You're a sick bitch. Is this what I've been hearing lately? You murdering innocent people? I couldn't believe what I was saying. I was hoped it was all a dream. Oh, hush. I wouldn't be running my mouth, especially the one who's tied up and can't run anywhere. She laughed once more and stabbed at the man. The sound of the knife entering the man's body made me sick to my stomach. How is this all real? You know, someone's gonna find you. Do you think you can just get away with this? I had so much to say, but I could barely breathe. Really? No one found me. I've been doing this for over 10 years. I don't think anyone's found me yet. Colin began slicing, like actual chunks out of the man's body. I looked away and I knew the bile was rising in my throat. Colin noticed I was purposely looking away and left the knife next to the man's body. She came over to me and knelt down, level with my eyes. You want to know everything? It might be a little too much for you. Colin smiled. Oh, as if this isn't already enough for me, I said and looked into her evil fucking eyes. Why did I even agree on coming back here? She just laughed lightly and sat down, cross-legged opposite of me, and I sat there, weak as she stared at me. I've just always had this craving that was never satisfied. I've had it for as long as I could remember, she said and traced the outline of my jaw with her thumb. It's crazy, but maybe it isn't. No one understands fully except for me and my sisters. I arched a brow and my heart was beating fast in my chest. I was in a foster home with many other kids. Helen, Nathan, and Anne were there too. We made a little promise and we got adopted together. That's when I finally had my craving satisfied. But they don't taste as good when they're dead, she said. Then she tugged at the collar of the shirt I was wearing. The cloth you're wearing. She then threw her head back in laughter. They're the clothes of my victims. She's fucking crazy. I struggled to get the rope untied so I can get the fuck out of here and call the cops. You thought you were staying for a while, then you'll be free? It was so easy getting your hopes up. We just had to make sure you weren't gonna leave. Then she looked back up at me. I mean, it doesn't taste as bad as you think. I mean, you've had it before. My eyes widened and I knew I was gonna throw up any second. What? I said, more like whispered. My voice was barely audible. Every dinner you've had here was made with human people. You were eating people too. You didn't seem to complain, she said. Now that everything's explained, I have to finish this poor guy. You're not gonna go starving now, are we? She smiled and got up and continued to do what she was doing. I was sick all over the ground in front of me, and I couldn't even wipe the evidence off my mouth. I looked for something, anything to free me of this torture chamber. I looked behind me and saw a blade resting on the shelf. It wasn't too high up, and I tried lifting myself to get it. When it fell down, I spent a while until I was free of the rope. Colin turned around and I was already up the upstairs, entering the kitchen. I sprinted past the rooms until I was in the living room. Helen, Nathan, and Anne frowned at me as I was covered in sweat and tears and couldn't breathe. "What's wrong, Blake?" Helen asked, and I pointed to the other room. "Colin, she's..." I began to talk, but I had to catch my breath, and the girls looked behind me. "Right behind you." I heard Colin finish my sentence. The girls grabbed onto me, except for Anne. "Come on, Anne, fucking help me," Colin said as she struggled to hold me down. The doorbell rang, startling all of us. "Shit," Colin whispered. Then Helen and Nathan dragged me to the other room and kept me against a wall out of sight. Anne just stood there, frowning and seemed out of place. Why she isn't trying to help her other psychotic sister kill me? "Hey," Colin answered the door awkwardly. "Good evening, dear. Is Blake here?" It was Nancy. I could hear the confusion in Colin's voice. "Oh no, he's at work. Why?" I struggled to break free of the girls and they threw their hands to cup my mouth. When I squirmed and yelled, "Help!" but it was muffled. "Oh well, he seemed like a nice kid when we talked earlier and I just wanted to tell him something. It's about his family. I think I recognized him. Anyway, when he gets home, will you let me know?" Nancy said. "Yeah, sure, whatever." Colin shut the door and stomped towards us. "Let's get this over with, okay?" Colin said, and they tied me back up, dragging me back to the basement. "No!" We all jerked our heads behind us to see Anne. Her heads were in fists at her sides. "Anne?" Colin cleared her throat. "I am not letting this happen. You're fucking sick. And we are all tired of doing this to us. You don't have control over us anymore. Anne yelled. Colin dropped me and half of my body fell to the floor. The other half was being held up by Helen and Nathan. Excuse me? You fucking hurt me. You've killed so many people, Colin, and blame it on us. From the little girl at the foster home and countless of innocent people in the basement of this house. And now him. You think you're all normal, but you're not. Anne said, and Colin stomped over to her and slapped her across the face. I could have easily killed you three, but no. I picked you guys to be safe forever. As long as you're with me, you won't get hurt. Now you're doing this. Colin yelled back. I won't let you kill another innocent soul in this basement. You're done, Colin. And I'm calling the cops. And turned around and stomped up the stairs. Colin ran after her, pulling her back and falling into her arms in the end. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Colin said through his grieved teeth. Or what? Tell me. Anne pushed. Helen and Nathan didn't know what to do. They just looked at each other as they held me tightly in their arms. I think you know the answer. I remember the way you looked at me in fear when I told you what would happen if you decided to do something like this, Colin said, inching towards Anne. You're gonna kill me? Anne laughed. Colin wasn't laughing. She picked up the blood-stained knife next to the dead man's rotting body on the metal table. I've given you this opportunity to just keep your mouth shut and do as I say, and you will be all right. Without hesitation, Colin pushed the rusty knife into Anne's body. Blood poured out of the wound and also trickled from the corner of her lips. She fell to the ground, and I couldn't explain the anger I was feeling. I struggled to get free of the two girls holding me down, but there was no budge. Let me go, fuck! I screamed, and just laid there on the cold concrete ground, surrounded in a pool of her own dark blood. And I thought she would be the best listener. Sorry things had to come to this. Colin pulled the knife from her body and just watched as Anne was slowly dying. Shut him up, girls. I have to finish this one. Colin pointed to the dead man's body on the table. And he's next. We've spent too much time doing this. We have to be quick. Colin stepped over Anne's dying body and continued to cut the man's body into chunks. You'll never get away with this. You're sick. How do you even think this shit is normal? I yelled. I started to scream out as loud as I can so anyone can hear and come save me. You guys can't even do simple things? Guess I have to do it myself then. Colin dropped the knife on the man's body and walked over to a cabinet above the weird fridge and pulled out a syringe and a vial of something. I swallowed hard as to prepare myself for what would happen next. This will calm your nerves. Colin pushed the needles in my arms and I could feel my face turn beet red. I screamed as loud as I could quite shaking, trying to get free. Then everything turned black again. Thanks for staying till the end. Please subscribe to more stories.